we grow, using procurement, program and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Business Zone with
Crystal and Gilbert. I was wondering why you're looking so short.
I'm a midget today.
Man, you just shrunk, man, since the last time I talked to you. You must have had a rough week.
I had a rough week, man. They worked me over. How you doing, co-host?
I'm good. My week is starting my month is starting to stabilize now that the kids.
Man, it's about time.
Yeah, I had a few little hours, not many, maybe an hour here and there every day. But today I actually had the whole morning to myself. It was incredible.
I like that.
It was incredible. So I'm back to normal. So next week is much better. I don't have too many. Everybody, I guess they went for the times they wanted on my calendar, and they couldn't get them. So they're like, okay, well, she's not available until September. Woo-hoo.
Hey, man, that sounds good. At least you get a little rehab time, you know?
Yeah, you need that. You need a little bit of step away, breathing, get some work done time. You know what that's like, right? Because you don't have time. You can coach all day long and have no time to process.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot, I tell you. It's a lot.
How was your week?
Oh, my week has been great, man. It's been great doing all kinds of things, meeting all kinds of people. I went to this event. It's they call it a mega mixer over at the Ontario Convention Center in Rancho Cucamonga. Well, actually, it's up in Ontario at the airport over there.
Oh, okay.
So, it was okay. It wasn't, the type of things that I usually do with small businesses, but I lend my services. The one thing I like, though, I met these young kids who they're entrepreneurs, and they've got a high school. It's called E-High. So they have this entrepreneurship school, which I really, really like. So I told them I'd like to be a part of their program. And if they don't mind connecting me with the owner of the organization. So they're going to reach out to me this coming week. And I really like these kids, and they're like, 15, 16, 17, 18, got their own business, trying to get it out there in the marketplace. I told them we can get them on our podcast to do interviews. And we also would like to teach some classes over there for them.
Oh,
so
awesome.
they're pretty open to that.
My summer program or my.
It's kind of like the biz camp, but a little upper level,
Okay.
So I really like this. They gave me a hoodie with their logo on it.
Okay.
I love it, man. I love it. So that was good.
Awesome. Yeah, that anytime you're working with kids, it's inspiring, actually.
Yes.
Even though I'm exhausted after that time frame, after working with the kids for 2 months,
right.
I do come away feeling extremely inspired because the kids, you're taking them. For me, I'm taking them from basically a blank screen, and then I'm injecting all of this lovely information intensely. And then they're absorbing it, and they're coming up with business plans and sometimes it's funny because I always say, if we had to sit any of our clients down, our adult clients, not our youth, and tell them in 3 weeks, you guys have to have a business plan put together. And every day we're infusing information to layer on top of that. And then we get to the financials. We're getting all kinds of pushback, right?
Yeah.
But I never get pushback with kids. So that's why I do what I get.
Because they're eager to demonstrate that they've got what it takes. and they can compete with the best of the best. So I like that. I
Awesome,
really like
awesome,
that.
awesome.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much was my week. I oftentimes think about though that, hey, I just I want to chill. I don't want to do anything this week. I don't want to meet with any clients. I just want to chill. And I'm looking forward to that date, man. I'm looking forward to that.
I have found for me, the only way to get that date is to take it off the calendar. So you just block the whole calendar out and your day. And since for me, that's the only way they can meet with me anyway,
Yeah.
is they go there and that date's not available. So it becomes
Yeah.
my day.
So
But
if you rely on the calendar to make it available to you, it's not going to happen. So you just got to
no,
take it.
you got to take the day. So Friday is usually one of those days. I mean, you're very lucky if you can get on my Friday calendar. And that's only because maybe I need you to do something in order for me to be able to continue through. But
Yeah.
clients don't get my Friday is the only thing that happens on Friday is the business zone.
That is true.
So unless I have some sort of meeting and I have to go somewhere for the first couple of hours, other than that, nope, that's my time just to sleep in. I can work late the night before because I can sleep in the next day. So that's how I work mine. Because if you're waiting for them not to schedule on your calendar, you will be waiting a long time, my friend.
I hear that.
Our marketing has gone over entirely too well.
I hear that, co-host.
We have become very sought after, and so which is good from the business standpoint, but it also takes up all of your time, so you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So anything new and exciting going on for you?
No, other than the fact that this week let me see how I want to put this. Our president to be introduced us to, or she selected her vice president. And so it's been interesting, but I think overall it was a good decision.
Yeah.
Based upon some of the other the other journalists and podcasts that I've been listening to, there was a reason why she did that. So I'm good with that.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the person that I don't want in the office don't get in the office. So I'll take her and whomever else. She could have made Biden her vice president for all I care. They could have just switched. They could have swapped seats.
Switch spaces, right? Otherwise, you're gonna have to burn down the house with everybody in it, right?
Right, exactly. So other than that, it was a pretty quiet week. Nothing super exciting happening. But we do have an amazing guest today that's going to talk about the real state of real estate. And so I'm excited. I had a little bit of a conversation with him. So there's hope on the horizon. But before you can get to hope, there's always like tornadoes and hurricanes and monsoons and tsunamis that have to happen before that happens. He's going to show us how to brace ourselves before we get to that. But one of the things I did, last week we did our show on Project 2025.
Yeah.
And throughout the week, people have reached out and asked me, were we going to do more on that topic? And I told them that we would be having an insert if it coincided with the conversations that we're going to have. But I think it's very important that we do have these conversations. So I think I sent you something in your email
today, right?
Yeah.
I saw something from you, but I was on the road, so
okay.
Didn't have
you're all dressed up. Where'd you come from?
So I went to go meet with a client of mine and his attorney because he bid on a project and they unfairly awarded the project to somebody else and not him, even though he was more qualified. He's got his ducks in a row. And it's just pure politics. So we did a sit down. We discussed policies, procedures. We discuss procurement rules and laws and how we'll apply that to them and hold them accountable. So we met, go over all of those things, and now we're gonna see what's gonna happen. The attorney is gonna file a complaint, and then he's gonna take it next level. So we'll see what's going on with that.
All righty. And so that actually kind of leads into our conversation on Project 25, because that process you just did won't exist
That's right.
if Project 25 is actually put into action. So they're going to disable all of the federal governments that protect the people and the minority people and the people, underserved people. So that would have been a non-starter right there if that had happened. So that another reason, and I know it's a big document, guys, but there are other individuals that are out there breaking it down. And I highly recommend you go listen. If you're not a reader, then go listen to it on a YouTube, because it's very important. So but one of the things that I pulled up so that we can have this quick conversation before we bring on John, who's our guest, is that the Project 25, which is actually a think tank plan. What it will be doing is overhauling and shrinking many of the federal agencies while simultaneously eliminating large groups of career support staff. So those actions are to really make sure that opportunities and things that we voted for, that is part of the Constitution, is no longer going to be accessible to us.
Well, three areas that what I discussed with you earlier about my client being passed over for this contract. Three areas in the Project 25 that this deals with is, access to procurement in a fair and equitable manner, and that's access to government contracts. And then the other one would be economic inequality and community support. So inequality would be, the types of barriers that's being put up by cities, towns, counties, states to bar or hinder certain small businesses from competing in the process. So that would be a perfect one for that. So that covers part of the Project 25, because in Project 25, as far as I understand, they're trying to sustain access to government contracts. They're trying to, I should say, they're trying to prevent access to government contract. They're trying to sustain that inequality when it comes to the procurement policies, and also going after making the playing field even, so other small businesses can participate. And then the community development programs, they're trying to cut those out. So all of those things and more are a big reason why we need to really delve into this Project 25 and see what they're really talking about. Is some of this legal, some of it illegal? How does it work?
Right. And but if you don't know what it is, then obviously you're just going to, as one person said, there's no way they could do that. It's against the law. But I guess they don't understand that against the law is based upon which would have predicated the Project 25 if it actually becomes a part of our fiber or fabric of our country. And so therefore all of the laws that we are accustomed to protecting us will no longer be there. That's the purpose of Project 25, is to eliminate all of those bureaucracies and things that they feel one-sided. So Project 25 is probably among the most profound threat to the American people.
Yeah.
And so that we as a people, I know some of us think our votes don't matter and they don't count, and what difference does it make? We're fighting for democracy right now. We're not. Yes, we want Kamala or whomever we want. We didn't want Biden, so we made that very, very clear. But
Right.
however, we do want more democracy, and if you don't understand what that looks like, you need to really truly look at some of the other countries, Russia, Venezuela, Korea, North Korea. These are countries, and a lot of the Soviet bloc countries, they don't have a democracy. They don't get to say what they want and where they want to be and how they want to be. Someone else is dictating their lives, but it's usually for their benefit, not for your benefit. So please understand that this is very, very important. I know a lot of things that we as Americans take for granted because it's
Hmm.
always been here for us and available to us. Um, that may be a thing of the past. So really, really understand how important this is to us. So
Right.
that's kind of what we're going to say about it today. But every week we will be coming up with a new with something that is pertaining to it, because we want you to be really, really clear on where we are today. Okay.
Right. 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 That sounds
All
good. That sounds good. So at
right.
least we're prepared to enter into this phase if it happens.
Right. I don't know what kind of preparation that would be, but however.
Well, part of the preparation would be to look into opposing type systems and programs that will not lead us down the path of Project 2025.
Okay. All
So,
right. Well,
so
there you
anything
go.
opposite to that is what we're
Opposite of
looking
that,
at.
yeah, it's best to be knowledgeable. And
Yeah.
it's so funny. And we're gonna great bring you on. It's so funny. My sister, who is not as I don't know if you want to call it woke or just more aggressively into this stuff than she is, but she works for the county, and she's a county a tax assessor.
Right.
And so one of her co-workers or her colleagues there, he's actually a judge. So he took the Project 25 and he took all 25 pages and he read it and came back with his opinions from the judicial status. And I told her, I said, "Wow, this sounds like the conversations we've been having." So
Yeah.
we're on the right point, because he's a retired judge, so he
Yeah.
definitely knows how to read through all the murk and all the legalese,
Hmm.
and that was his comment. All righty, so we first want to tell you, Gilbert, you want to tell them where what they're listening to, and we'll do our
That's
QR
right.
code thing.
That's right, guys. So you are listening to the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We are on every Friday from 3 to 4:30. If this is your first time here on this channel, guys, you are in for a treat. You're going to have some great information from which you can glean knowledge and data to run your business. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur, that information will be there. Your micro or small business, you're trying to become certified as a government entity. I mean, as a DBE, MBE, SBE, or DVBE, this is a place to be. Now, if you look on the screen, of course, you will see a QR code. And my co host will tell you what that QR code is all about.
Yeah, so we want you to go over to our YouTube channel and we want you to scan that QR code, and it will take you to our button to subscribe. We are looking to grow our numbers. We're looking to monetize this platform. In order to do that, we need your help. So we are asking you to go over there, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, except you get so much more from it. So we're paying you by giving you information that would ultimately cost you if you actually were going to um, uh, be a client of Gilbert's and I. So we're giving it
Yeah.
to you free of charge every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. All we ask you to do is hit that subscribe. hit that QR code, hit the subscribe button, and then you will be getting notifications, advanced notifications when we're going to go live and once we have gone live. So that's all we have.
I was looking for our guest. I'm going, where is he? I know he's in the green room somewhere. Where is he? Then my cursor wandered over to the right on a little picture image of me. I said, "Oh, there he is."
So here's the thing. You know how software updates, and sometimes they don't necessarily tell you. You go in, you went, wait, what's happening over here? Why does this look different?
Every day they change it out, man.
Yeah, so this is a new, different look,
the new look
that they are doing. So now the guests are going to be on the right-hand side as opposed to the. It looks like it's got some new chops to it. So I haven't been able to investigate it because I just popped in this morning and went, what's happening here? But it seems to be more doable than it was when they first introduced it. So I think I'm kind of liking it. I'll see.
I think it might grow on to me. You know, I'm not opposed to change because as we know, in 2025 there might be a lot of changes that we have to adjust to. So
right, these are little changes, so we have to be ready for. So I'm going to play around with it, but so far it hasn't deviated too much. But I've seen some things that are pretty cool, so I'll be able to tell you. But right now, our guest, if you hover over there, our guest is on the right hand side of it, and now you can
before you introduce the guest co-host, I want to acknowledge one of our clients here, Miss Andrea Viehill. She is logging in on the show and she's saying, hey, best mentors ever. So thank you for that, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea. Hope all is going well in very hot Vegas and that you're staying cool.
And I hope it's not too hot for you right now.
and right now you probably have a lot of business.
Yeah,
trying to keep people cool.
And the heating and air conditioning
heating and air conditioning, right? Exactly. All righty. With that, we're going to bring on our guest, and let me make some shiftings over here so that we can bring him in properly. So we're here, nice close in front, up front, and then we're going to bring him in. We're going to not be so close. Let me see. I got to navigate. And there we have it. But we're going to put you over here, John, and we're going to be over here. Okay. Welcome. We are so happy to have you.
Good to be with you both. How are
you? Welcome, Mr. Grace. How you doing, sir? Did you enjoy the food in the green room that we made for you?
Well, I had to use my imagination. And let me say to what you guys were just talking about, let's just say no to autocracy. Yes to democracy.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what we have to say.
No to autocracy and yes to democracy. I love that.
There we go.
Right. So our guest today, guys, is John Grace. He's a registered principal with LPL Financial. He's a professional with over 30 years of experience. John was an Eagle Scout. I'm reading this from your website. He attended Carleton College in Minnesota. More than that, though, he has some amazing financial I guess he's like us, but in the financial space, Gilbert. He is a guru in his space. I had a very amazing conversation with him the other day that gave me a little fright, but then on the backside of it, he gave me some hope. So
he is a financial paramedic.
Yeah, he's a paramedic. So he's going to come here today and talk to us about the real state of the real estate market. And here in the state of California, that tends to be in our conversations most days because it seems to have gotten extremely expensive if you're trying to buy a home. But then I think all over the country is like that. But obviously we're living here, so it really feels intensive here. So he's going to talk to us about that. And I think he's going to share a little presentation with us just to get us on the right track. But before he does that, welcome, John, and we are happy to have you with us. And the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Crystal. Good to see you again, Gilbert. Welcome. Glad to be back.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and what we're really talking about here is how to get a sense of how the economic tea leaves really work. And I will say that maybe one way to kind of set the whole stage. Let me ask you both. When did you consume the most potato chips in your life? How old were you?
when the Super Bowl is getting ready to come on. Super Bowl game.
When I was under the age of 25 before calories start coming.
Well, I have some good news for you, because sometimes your tax dollars at work actually do something. And according to the Census Bureau, we now know that the age at which all of us on average ate the most potato chips in life was exactly at 14. 14.
Oh, okay.
And as parents, you bought the most potato chips for your 14-year-old when you were exactly 41. Wow. So my point is that we often get lost in a lot of data, facts, figures that really don't drive what's going on. And if we want to get a sense for what's really going on, we need to study the buying and selling behavior of American consumers based on age. And it's that piece of the puzzle based on age that nobody goes through. Okay. So yeah, 14. And see, this is a real story that we pay for independent research. And one of the companies that we studied, starting in 1999 at a cost of like $10,000 a year, was a company called Japs before World War I. And then they changed their name to J's, hearing that there might be a little problem, right? They changed their name. Family-owned business. And they looked at their sales data, and the sales looked very strong. So they decided to get more plant, more equipment, more trucks, hire more people, get more bank loans. And you know why the company did not survive. And that is, no one, all these smart people, look to see how many 14-year-olds do we have coming down the pike, okay? Let's look at the Census Bureau to see the number of 14-year-olds in the communities we serve. If a smart person had bothered to ask that fundamental question, they would have recognized, the number of 14-year-olds is plateauing. This would not be the best time to expand. This might be the best time to contract, pay down debt, really look to see what we're doing. Maybe we look to expand in other communities where there are more 14-year-olds coming down the road, but they decided to expand. They lost the company. They were able to buy it back. That went well for a while, and ultimately lost it. It's still around, but it's now owned by one of the conglomerates. So this is what I'm saying. We want to look at the buying and selling behavior based on age. So for example, when we talk about real estate, we all know to a person, what are you supposed to watch? Location, inventory, and interest rates, right? Mm-hmm. But let's just start in the 80s, when people were delighted that they could get a 13% 30-year loan as compared to a 16% 30-year loan, which is what I got in the early 80s. Okay, so let's just notice that what's happening here. The impediment for interest rates keeping people from buying wasn't consequential. Why? Because thanks to the Census Bureau again, we can see these three ages driving the real estate market. 31 is the age most Americans bought their first house. 31. Nobody knows why. It must have been a bell ringing for the potato chips, bell ringing at 31. Who knows why, right? But literally, boomers were standing in line to buy their first house. Did not give a hoot about 10 to 16% interest rates, right? Today, everybody would go, you're crazy. But if we had told our friendly boomers that you could see 3% money, they would have told you were crazy, okay? So sometimes we have to look beyond what we think or what we think we know. So first home purchase, 31. Biggest home purchase 10 years later is 41. That's interesting. So that means the boomers were doing something in mass, whether it's tampons or diapers or whammo, whatever it might be. When you have 76 million people coming into the country, you've got a whole lot of demand for a whole lot of stuff. But we got to recognize when that stuff rises and when that demand for stuff falls. And it's different for things in different orders, depending on the age. So 41, that's when boomers had to step up to their biggest house, their McMansion. Who could live without a 5,000 square foot house, particularly in Southern California? Everybody has to have one, right? Well, and we all thought we were doing something different. No, we were doing what everybody else was doing. Think we're being cute. Think we're being unique. No, we're following the herd. That's what we're doing. So we'll talk more about this herd thing because it's an easy thing to get swept up in, like fear of missing out. Okay, following the herd. Sometimes we got to beat the path. So now let's look to see what happens next. When do Americans tend to sell? Well, that's very interesting. Why? Because it's none other than 78. And why is 78 important? Well, boomers were born 1946 to 1964. And by the way, we would submit that the how this whole thing happened was something called pent-up demand. I think you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. All of these service people coming home, excited to see their spouses, and away we go with all these babies popping up. All right, pent-up demand. Yes, I think you understand that.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it. Right. It's a very normal thing, or at least it used to be. Not so much anymore. And understand this baby boom generation. It only happened in one country, and it's only happened once in the world's history. Okay, so 78 is the age most Americans, again from the Census Bureau, is what we do. We get out of these houses. Okay, now that's what makes that even more interesting. Is right before 78, what happens at 76.4? Well, now we can turn to the World Health Organization to see that 76.4 is the average age of death for most Americans. So Donald John Trump, my fellow Gemini, turned 77 last year. He turned 78 just on June 14th of this year. And you've got this 1-2 punch, my friends, we have never seen before. When COVID hit, a lot of countries' life expectancy started declining. Every other country's life expectancy declined at first, but they've gone further north. Japan, UK, Canada, all north of 80. We keep dropping backwards. And for minorities, the average age of death is in the low 70s. So when people say, oh, everybody's living longer, no, that's not true. The well-to-do, the ones with healthcare, the ones with resources, they're living longer. So what I say to people, I mean, I'm very blessed. My parents, my in-laws got into their 90s. And I'm saying, don't look at your family first. Look at Homer and Marge Simpson first. Because there are far more Homer and Marge Simpsons than there are of you. Your family are outliers, okay? You had education, you got resources, you got healthcare. Most of us don't. And I submit to you that's one of the primary reasons why the other countries who have healthcare, no matter your status, their average age keeps going up of death and ours keeps retreating for a host of reasons, okay? So 76.4 is the average age of death. We just crossed that threshold. And 78 is the average age that most Americans sell their homes. So what I'm saying is, think of it like this. All we know, and you can have this conversation with people, but everything people want to talk about is based on what? History, based on how it was. We need to look out the front part of our car, the big windshield, the GPS on, the headlights on, okay, so we can see clearly around. You ain't gonna get that perspective looking backwards, okay? So the only thing we have seen to a person is the results of 76 million people showing up. Now, you tell me what you think is going to happen. It's going to take maybe 10, 20 years for 76 million people, 20, 24% of the population, to go to heaven. I'm going to be an optimist. We're all going to heaven. There's no such thing as a hell. Don't worry about that, okay? We're all going to heaven. But the inventory, for the most part, outside of fires and crazy events, remains pretty much flat, right? Of homes, single-family homes, remains pretty flat. So when the demand goes to heaven and the supply remains the same, where do you think prices and rents might be headed?
Well, I would imagine it's a supply and demand, right? So now we have more supply. So therefore the prices should be coming down.
That's correct. 100%. And by the way, I've just checked on this morning. In the last year, the average home price in the country a year ago was $445,000. As of last month, it's $440,000. That's already a 10% decline in the average price of a home. And I have sources in Texas and Florida that say they are seeing pockets of 20 to 30% declines just in the last year and a half. So the research team is now suggesting, I mean, nobody can see the future, but the way I look at it, my friends, is that we don't want to be distressed sellers, okay? We want to be able to buy from distressed sellers. So what that means is there's a time to accumulate, whether it's a potato chip company or real estate, And there's a time to move out of that area, kind of like, your chips when you're in Vegas. What are they? Nothing until you do what? Go to the cashier's window, exchange your chips for cash. People count their equity as cash, but it's like chips in Vegas. It doesn't really count until you cash in your equity. So what I'm saying is, let's talk about it from two sides of the equation. Talking with a friend of mine whose parents own 12 homes. I said to them, can you imagine that the research team, by the way, in 06, they suggested that real estate prices would drop about 40%. From what I can see, the average decline across the country was 34%. That's in the ballpark. I'll give them a check for that. Okay. So I said, can you imagine with your 12 homes, each worth, I know, over $1 million, all in Southern California? Let's see. How's that? How you doing in terms of earthquake country? Is that diversification? Oh, heck no, it's not. And then let's suppose that all 12 of those houses drop 50%. I don't know, is it going to be next week? Is it going to be next year? Is it 2 years from now? I don't know. But if you take, let's just say, half your chips off the table, because you don't need all these damn houses, all right? You count all that damn equity, but it doesn't count for you until you what? You cash in. And now people get anxious. What should I do with the money? Should I buy? No. Don't do what Warren Buffett does. Notice he sells sometimes at a loss, sometimes at a great gain, but he sits on the cash to see where the next opportunity might show up. He's not anxious to sell high and then buy high. That's kind of stupid. So what we're saying is, for people who have properties that they don't only like or need, this is probably the best time you're going to see, maybe in your lifetime, I'll get to that in a minute, to get top dollar. Just keep the money in your pocket, put the popcorn in your lap, and see how the movie unfolds. Because you may find that you sell at top dollar, you sit for a while, maybe it's a couple of years, and you're able to get back in at 50 cents on the dollar. What's wrong with selling high and buying low? Okay. Now, here's another piece of the puzzle that's happening behind the scenes. Just as we didn't recognize that the 16% rate was not an impediment to baby boomers, we happen to believe that there are shortages. We all believe that, just like we believe there was interest rates location in the majority. Well, there's another story developing that most of us don't see. And that is the number of vacancies in this country. What? Vacancies? Are you kidding me? The news is all about the shortage. I know. Let's dig deeper under the hood. Is it a 2-cylinder, 4-cylinder, 12-cylinder? I don't know. We need to dig
deeper.
Okay. So what we find is that the number of vacant homes in America right now is something like 16 million. Are you kidding me? Nope, that's true. All right. And we found this because we started looking around a little bit. And one of the things that really got our attention, there are 11 million vacant homes in Japan. I have a story of a woman who went to Japan to teach English and was able to find a house she could pick up at no cost. So first we went over to look at China, and there's 65 to 80 million vacant homes there, 16 million vacant homes in these United States of America. Now, let's look to see which states. I'll ask you guys, there are 2 states that lead the list in terms of the most vacancies. Can you name them?
Well, I know California is definitely one of them.
Sure is. That's half. Gilbert, you want to?
I'm running through the crevices of my mind to see which country that could be. Which state?
Yeah, it's a state that we keep hearing about people moving to.
Florida or Arizona?
Yes. Florida's number one. 1.7 million vacant homes in Florida, 1.2 million vacant homes and apartments in California.
Wow.
Now that's interesting, being that, there was a big migration, or not a huge migration, but there was a migration out of California, especially during COVID. And a lot of them did relocate to places like Florida, Arizona, and Texas. So what's the premise behind that? Why are there so many vacant homes in Florida?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have a great answer, just as I don't have a great answer why at 31 we bought the first house, why at 41 we bought the biggest house, why at 78 we tend to sell. I don't know that answer. It's just that we're looking at the behavior. We may not, it's kind of like shooters, right? Do you really know what they were thinking? You're never going to know that, okay? But we're looking at the behavior more than anything so that maybe we can make smart decisions to say, now might be a good time. If I really want to play the game, now might be the best opportunity for me to take my chips off the table, as I say, and then prepare to enter at some point in the future. Now, let's look at American history, and then we'll look at Japan history in terms of how long it takes to recover, because that's one of those things that everybody wants to believe. The NAR and the NRA, they're both lobbying organizations, and they're both up to something. They want to sell things. Okay, let's just understand they have more in common than just being a lobbyist organization and the same initials. So so we've got all these vacancies, and that's probably going to persist for a while. And if we look back at the Great Depression, many people recognize that stocks dropped about 85%. Remember, the beginning of the decade, the roaring 20s, the end of the decade, the Great Depression. Same 10-year period. What a start and what a finish, all right? So many of us know stocks dropped 85%. Some of us know stocks took about 25 years to get back even. Let's stop there for a moment and recognize, for you to get back to even, what did you have to do? You had to hold on to your shares. You could not redeem any of them for 25 years. $1 million went to 200,000. Took 25 years for 200,000 to get back to $1 million, assuming you kept all the shares that just kicked you in the assets. Okay. Now, I don't know who doesn't need money for 25 years, but maybe there's some people who don't. Okay. A year later, when we look at real estate in New York, New York's always the capital of capitalism, right? New York real estate dropped 70%. $70 million piece of property in New York City, 300,000. Now the real estate industry would wave a flag, say it always comes back, it always comes back. Okay, let's see how long it took. Only 40 years. That's right, 4 decades. Really? But wait, there's more. We talked about life expectancy. Now, back then, if we were adults, life expectancy was something like 57. So that means neither your stocks nor your real estate got back while you were still here. I suspect that means a whole lot of people died with great regret. I would hate to see that happen again. And I'm afraid that might be the precipice that we're on, because as I say, we've only seen 76 million people show up. We've not seen 76 million people disappear. So this is completely uncharted territory. But this gives more reason. What do they say? If you find yourself in a ditch, stop digging. This gives a reason not to just keep getting high on the hope. Well, prices have to keep going up because we have such a shortage. Well, other stories are developing underneath you, undermining you. But if you take your cash, give a hoot, what happens to the market? Because you got out. And that way you are better positioned to catch the next wave. And we could talk about some of the areas of real estate we do like, but we want to make sure that people understand that this is not sustainable. And let me say something about that here. Homeowners in the Midwest are delighted. Their home prices on average have tripled over the last 20 years. The coasts, the East Coast and the West Coast, are delighted. Our home prices have quadrupled over the same 20 years or so, 25 years or so. Okay. Now you tell me what you think of this. We need to look at household income. Remember talking about Homer and Marge Simpson? Average household income is all of $77,000 in this country. What can you do with that? All right. But what happened with the average household income in the same period that houses tripled and quadrupled? We see an increase of only 1.6 times. Now, do you think this is sustainable?
No. But here's double. This is the interesting thing. Well, first of all, I think it's, as I told you yesterday, John, when I spoke to you, this is good news in the sense that young people today, because without this type of conversation that we're having, the conversation we have been having is our young people cannot buy homes today. There are no condos, there's no townhouses, they cannot afford, because you literally have to be making what is 100 to even to rent an apartment in the state of in some parts of California, you have to be making about 6 figures, about $125,000 a year. Well, that's not happening here. So what you're saying is that the conversation needs to go to stop being about supply and demand and be about more, the money that you have, and that there are availabilities out there, but how do you keep them from inflating the prices? Because supply and demand is how you increase those prices, right?
Well, we have to recognize supply and demand. And right now, I think it's completely distorted.
Okay.
But I think we're going to have a come to Jesus experience. Okay? When I'm talking to a friend of mine whose granddaughter just bought a house with her husband, and they have a 7-month-old in Agoura Hills for $1.3 million, 2,200 square foot house. Okay, this is no McMansion. And the price is 1.3 million, and the between the interest expense, the payment and their property taxes, it's $10,000 a month.
Wow.
Right.
That's a whole lot of money. So what I'm saying to the folks who have properties, this might be a good time to cash in your chips. For those who have not purchased a property, I'm saying don't be anxious. Let me paint the picture. You make the call. It's your income. I'm glad you have the down. I'm glad you can qualify, and I'm glad you're interested in buying a house. But if you were to buy a house, and after you get everything pretty, the shutters in, the curtains up, the lawn redone, okay, this is beautiful. Whatever, if that's 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years from now, if you see your 1.3 suddenly turn around and it's worth 650, would that sound like fun to you? If that sounds like fun, go with God. If you got $5 million someplace else and this 1.3 doesn't mean much to you, then go with God. If that doesn't sound like fun to you, I'm going to say keep your powder dry. Don't be guilty of the fear of missing out. And I think that's what's happened to a lot of millennials who bought in the last couple of years. From what I can see, the statistics are more than 7 or 8 out of 10 are sorry they bought. Now, I've never seen a statistic like that. Usually people are high on the house in the first year or two, right? But no, they feel like they paid too much. They were too much of a hurry. They didn't really do their homework. So I'm saying to folks, yeah, those are your choices. If you don't care whether the price drops 50% after you get comfortable, then buy away. If that bothers you, I'm going to suggest the elephant's going to kneel, and you might want to wait to get on the elephant so that you can catch the next wave in terms of that appreciation. But let's also understand this thing with all of this appreciation, that's relatively new. Historically, real estate across the country forever only increased by about the rate of inflation. So I'm going to say that the primary reason that prices are at these nosebleed level is because of all these people, that where all this demand has pushed up prices. The COVID also helped. But again, we've never been in a place where 76 million people simply disappear. That's completely unprecedented, but that's not, particularly when we look at the average household income, not doubling and tripling or quadrupling like houses have. None of this is really sustainable, in my opinion, or good reason to believe house prices just have to keep going up. No, there's going to be a come to Jesus moment. And by the way, the last time from peak to trough, it took about 6 years for the peak to be reached and the low price to be found. On that note, the research team says if you want to get a sense for where house prices are headed, take whatever address you like, yours, your mother's, the neighbors, it doesn't matter. Use Zillow and use their feature where it shows the value 10 years ago. They only go back 10 years. The reason that's important, the research team suggests, if you want to see where prices are headed, you want to get a sense for when the bubble was forming. In real estate, they believe the real estate formation bubble was taking place in 2012. So if you want to see where your price of whatever house you might look at, where it might end up, look at that price. As I say, on Zillow, you can only go back 10 years. I think that's close enough, but it follows me saying, if we're at 50%, this $1.3 million house 20 years ago was, roughly half.
Probably about 4 or 5, right? It might have been about 5 in Agoura, about 5, 6 maybe in Agoura 10 years ago. And now I don't know how you live with a $10,000 a month mortgage. I really truly don't know how you sleep with a $10,000 a month mortgage. But
yeah, that's tough. And it used to be the case, but you're only supposed to go 30% of your gross income, right? Well, now whether you're renting or buying, it's 40, 50, 60% of your gross income. That's tough.
Well, yeah,
So this is
people.
pretty much cyclical then, because this we had this in 2007, 2008, and now it's 2024. So this is around 16 years later, and it's behaving the same way. So I guess we will see this for another 3 to 4 years, and then it cools down, and then it comes back again in 10 years, right?
Well, what I think may happen is I think a lot of people are going to wake up and go, this real estate thing is crazy. And look at all the money you have to pour into the damn house just to make it decent. All right. And the average additional costs that people don't take into the equation is like $700 a month just to keep the property in good shape over and above your property taxes, your principal and
Right.
interest. Well, that's what, $8,400 a year, every year dropped in, and nobody counts that. Okay. So I think what's going to happen is particularly millennials are going to look out and go, I don't really need this McMansion. My parents, it's nice. That's good for them. 5 bedrooms, 6 baths. Nice. Good for them. Crown molding. Don't hate that. Don't like that either. Crown molding don't work for me. Okay. We don't need a big ass house. We're going to need $2 or $3 million just to live off of. Okay. We don't have a pension. Social Security may or may not be there, but we're going to need $2-3 million just to survive when we stop working. And if we've got $2-3 million sitting in a piece of property where we can't get any of the money out of it, does that make a whole lot of sense? And this whole thing of the house, it's a money pit. That's what it is. So maybe we need to rethink our thinking and look to see what's really important to us. It's about living where we want to live. And if we have to rent, well, nothing's wrong with that. We still get to live where we want to live. And if prices went through the roof and that's not happening again, why should I be anxious to run out there and go put my money down and pay $5,000-$10,000 a month just for some place to stay? And I still need another $2-3 million, whether or not the house is paid for, just to live the way I want to live, what I want to make work optional.
So basically, are you saying though that the same concept with us in the stock market, right? Buying low as opposed to buying high.
Well, yeah,
Obviously, you get more value for your dollar if you buy low.
yes. I'm really an advocate of people being cautious. What I see is everywhere people just throwing darts, and there's appreciation, so they're just satisfied with that, and they think it has some relationship to their intelligence because it went up. By the way, they have the same point of view when it goes down, and some of their relationship to their intelligence too. We glee when it's up, we cry when it's down. The distinction I want to make is with real estate, you're either all in or all out. With other investments, as far as like the stock market is concerned, there are ways where investors can successfully limit their losses. And by the way, let's put this out there because I think this is an important message for your audience that we can all learn a lot from Warren Buffett. Like I say, he doesn't get high on real estate. He had two. He had the one that he owns, his original home. He's expanded it. There was another one in Laguna Beach. I've been there. He sold that profitably. He says he wished he had not bought it. It was a great summer home for the family, but he'd rather go buy stocks. But let's just notice what he said back in February when there was a lot of media patting him on the back for the market capitalization of Berkshire Hathaway approaching $1 trillion in value. Now, he didn't say, look at me, aren't I smart, do what I'm doing, okay, follow my lead. No, what he said, he was very humble. He said, that's pretty good. However, if we had limited our losses, it's conceivable to me the $1 trillion value could be twice as much. Notice what he's saying here. Whether it's the securities industry or the real estate industry, we want to tell you can just ride this out. Well, 40 years in New York. And by the way, we're seeing 35 years in Japan. Prices peaked 1229.89. The stock market dropped 80%. Year later, Japanese real estate dropped 70%. From what I can tell, both have just about gotten back to even. I mean, just this year. So let's say you were 50 35 years ago. Now you're 85, and it took 35 years. And it sounds like New York, right? 40 years to get back to even. Wow, that's a long time. So that's my point from the standpoint of we want to limit our losses. And when it comes to like retirement accounts, leaving the money in passive investments, the no-load mutual funds that we all like, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, didn't do so well in 08, didn't do so well in 2022. The question becomes, how might you limit those losses? And our best answer are two. One, we want to apply active management strategies to the portfolio and greater diversification. So active management strategies, most accounts that people have, their ETFs, their mutual funds, their 401k, stay static. 5% cash, 95% invested. That means rate, market's off 37. Many of those stock positions were up over 40% and took 4 to 5 years to get back to even. If there was a situation where you might have been off, let's say, less than 20% in 08, and that means that instead of staying passive, the account became more defensive. You started the year 5% cash. You might have ended the year 100% cash. Well, then you stop digging. You're at a level of, let's say, a loss of 20%, and then you have the ratios coming back down from the extreme, from 100% cash back to 5% cash by 2009. Well, now that means if we saw a loss of 20 or less and a gain net of 25 or more the next year, you're back to even in a year or two. That's a good sign. All right. Particularly, well, many of us have a lot of money sitting in retirement accounts, traditional retirement accounts. It was a 401k, now it's an IRA. Now you have to start taking withdrawals for the rest of your life. Those withdrawals only increase from traditional retirement accounts, no matter what the account does. All right. So, yeah, to me, that means we shouldn't be encouraging people just to sit and take it. We should be showing people how to limit their losses, like Buffett talked about. And that way we might be able to stick around to 100 and not try to go get a job as a Walmart greeter. And
to pay for that $10,000 mortgage, right? So let me ask this, John. So obviously that bubble is about to burst soon. So what are some of the things that, from your standpoint as a financial advisor, would you be advising, people to do right at the present moment?
Yeah, first is look at active management strategies. So that's where you hire the team that looks at your money with this question: is it fuel on the fire or water? In 08, you wanted all the water you could get. In 09, you wanted all the fuel you could get. All right. So active management is number one. Think of it like this: like, remember Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. So in a bad economic environment, you want someone looking at your account, maybe redeeming those shares, going to cash, as opposed to holding on to those shares, because those shares might turn out to be deck chairs on the Titanic. You went from this bond to that bond, this stock to that stock, but the whole damn ship sank. No, let's take the money off the deck of the Titanic, a sinking ship, go to cash. That way we limit our losses on that side of the equation. The second piece is greater diversification. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. We're talking about Yale endowment. I think we can learn a lot from the major endowments. Yale endowment's like $40.7 billion. And here's the question. Any number will be fine. What do you imagine Yale endowment has as a ratio in U.S. stocks last time they made a report? Gilbert, you want to go first this time? What do you think?
I'm going to yield to my co-host. she has more knowledge on this space than I do.
I would think that the stock, I think they're probably more on the mutual fund side and a very smaller percentage on because it's long term.
Well, think of whether it's stocks, whether they're holding them individually or in a Vanguard fund. They're still U.S.
Okay,
stocks.
What is balance is usually what 60-40, 60. I think when I have a friend that's in retirement, and so he always talks about diversifying and being balanced. 60.
Yeah, my co-host purchases stocks and all of that, so I am ignorant when it comes to this. I'm learning from her.
It's just a guess, but the correct answer last time I looked is 3%.
Oh,
yeah. So for most of us, that's very low. It's certainly
that's nothing.
That's nothing, and that's quite different than what the retail side of the securities industry is encouraged everybody your mother, your sons, it doesn't matter. Everybody, 60-40, you're diversified. Yale said that's what we used to do in the 80s. We're not doing that anymore. We're structuring things quite differently. And by the way, according to the report, you can read it for yourself online. They say they didn't lose any money in 08. Now, who can say that? Not many people can say that. But to me, that's encouraging. So first, let's just notice their exposure to U.S. equities is very, very low. And then the second thing I noticed is their maximum exposure, last I looked, was less than 20% in any one vehicle. But I count 5, depending on how you really label those choices, but I count at least 5 different legs underneath their portfolio stool. So I'm saying greater diversification is the answer. You might want to choose your flavor, but the areas that I like right now, specifically to your question, Crystal, is I like student housing and I like data center infrastructure. Okay, I'll take that over high-end homes right now. Student housing, if you had students during COVID, they were at home and you're still paying for their room at school. All right. Yeah. So that was a cash cow. And we have good clients who he's a rocket scientist. She's a broker. They own property near USC. They tell me that USC has 8,000 rental units and a waiting list of 40,000 people. That's a cash cow, all right?
It is. So it is.
I'm saying that's the kind of thing I want in my client's portfolio because I don't care who wins the White House. I don't care what happens to the economy. This cash flow is going to continue. Okay, that's number one. The second one is data center infrastructure. What's that? That's the plant you need for all of this artificial intelligence. Okay. 300,000 square foot buildings that may or may not have a bathroom. I mean, it's all of the machines, all of the computers that are running 24/7, 365 with 3 or 4 systems backup, no water outside of California. Someone, to get the AI to work, which is 10 times faster than we search on Google, it takes a lot of power. So there are companies who are in business of building this kind of plant and equipment to provide for the Apples and the Amazons and whatnot that carry all of this traffic. So I'm saying again, that's probably going to hold up no matter what happens. And you might see a yield, close to 5%, a return of net about 10%, something to look at. Again, I like things that are not part of the roller coaster. I get excited about boredom. Isn't that weird? I get excited about the consistency.
Right. No fluctuation.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said that. My brother-in-law used to be the facility manager at UCLA. And he retired from there a couple of years ago. And he had been there since he was 19 and in that same area. And the most lucrative department in all of UCLA was the housing. For years.
Right.
For as long as he had been there, because they were into buying up property to create more housing because, they get $10,000 a bed. Right. So, so that was the thought. And I told him recently, I said, I want to invest in some housing for students, in other states, obviously, where you're close to colleges or small colleges, community colleges, larger, universities, because for at least for 4 years or 5 years, in some cases, they're going to need housing.
Yes.
And it's going to keep turning over.
Exactly. And a lot of schools are exiting that business. They don't want to deal with the parents giving them hell about the rents or whatever it is. So they turn it over to a company. That's what they do for schools across the country. And yeah, as I say, I think it's not going away. And the schools have gotten out of the business, so these major companies have stepped into that void. And I have to imagine if you're buying, toilet paper for 100 schools, you got to get a much better price than you're buying it for any one school.
And that is really the Warren Buffett method. Is to me, I think he's a genius because he only invests in stuff that people use every single day. That's never going to go out of style because you need paper plates, you need cups every single day.
Yep.
And once you run out toilet paper, you're going to go back and buy some more, right?
Buy some more. But we all know it. It pays to buy in volume.
Right, exactly.
So your wish is granted, Crystal. That position you're looking for, it does exist. And by the way, this one I'm thinking of has been up for about 3 years. We're very happy with it, and we think it will continue and play well for investors.
Awesome. Well, and that's important. You know, like I said, I have a friend that's in he's in the retirement space. He's a retirement advisor, and I do a podcast with him on Mondays, and that's pretty much what we talk about every single Monday is understanding, you know, what you're invested in, and, you know, basically what do you want, you know, because if you do plan on living to that grand old age of 90, you want to make sure your retirement plan can follow you,
keep up with you,
and keep up with you at 90, because it might tap out at 70.
Yeah, we don't want you running out of money before you run out of time, okay?
Right.
And to your point, that's why when we do a financial plan, people laugh because we go, okay, we're going to look at this from your present age through age 100. They're like, I'm not going to make one. I don't know. It's more conservative for us to assume you might get there, okay? Right. The last thing we want to do, well, my dad lived to 56, so I think I might get to 60. No. Let's not do that, because if you get to 62 and you've depleted your money at 60, how's life? Not too good. Now, if you run it out to 100 and you have to leave and go to heaven at 84, fine. We don't want you running out of money before you run out of time. So
the reverse of when you were younger, where you may have more money and you had more month than you had money. It is not going to be the same thing on that backside.
No. And you like life a certain way, right? So it's going to take some work to make sure that you keep this in that fashion. And on that note, let me say this, because I was just working with a couple last night. They look like us, and they want to achieve financial independence. But was a big aha for them. And that was, if either one of you have the nerve to go to heaven before the other, how is the survivor going to live? That's a question for each of you. So they did what most people do. Oh, we've got $500,000 on each of us. We're worth more dead than alive. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, let's see. Let's do it like this. If you're used to 100 grand from him or her, I don't care who it is, and you got a check for 500,000, how many years is this going to last you if you're willing to exhaust principal? Would that be about 5 years? It'd be about 5 years. And
roundabout.
Yep. Now, if you want to live off the interest, and you can put the $500,000 to work, not depleting $100,000 every year, and you put this money where it might be earning a 6 or 7 or 8% net return to you every year, but you're withdrawing at 4%. Well, 4% on 500,000 is all of 20 grand. That's what, $1,600 a month or so. You were used to more like 8, and now you get by on less than 2. That might not work. So let's make sure we do this for each of you. Because if he dies and you're used to $80,000, what that means is you need a $2 million policy on him today. 4% on 2 million is 80,000. Now you might miss him, but you won't miss his money. So, if you have to negotiate the funeral, you won't be crying over, oh my God, he died and took all the damn money. And by the way, this is particularly important for divorcees, right? They spend so much time and money. Oh, I'm going to make him. The judge is I'm going to get, okay. So let's suppose he's used to her $120,000 that she used to earn. And now she's supposed to pay this in alimony to him. Well, same number, same way, same math. So assuming 4% as a withdrawal rate, what it means is, let's say it's you, right? And now you need $3 million on her. 4% of that is $120,000 a year. But again, right now, she dies financially, it's a non-event. That's what we're talking about. And that exactly part of the plan, because as I say, we see so many people getting high on the hopium, and as long as they're gains, they're dancing in the streets, but we're not prepared for the bottom to fall out, and we can, and let's learn from the animals, right? When there's a flood, they don't look for the sharpest dresser or the most eloquent or the prettiest. They look for the smartest. And they
Right,
don't say
exactly.
something stupid like, I'm going to ride this out. They go, follow the smart animals to higher ground. Let's go. Move them out. Okay.
And it's so, Gilbert and I, most of our clientele most of our clients are entrepreneurs. Some of them may have the luxury of having retirement plans from their first endeavor, and this is their second act.
Right.
But most of them kind of think of their business as their retirement plan, not recognizing that if you don't have a succession as to what happens after that, if you're not planning on selling the business and acquiring some money that can help you retire, you can't work until you're 95 years old doing the same hustle trying to maintain your lifestyle. So we have had several conversations on this platform, on this show, about recession, creating a recession plan. What does that look like post work?
Right.
Your own work, your own business, because all kinds of things happen over 60 that prevents you from going to work for somebody else.
Exactly.
Right, Gilbert? And Gilbert has much higher network clients than I do. So really it's imperative for them to think about the succession. So he talks about that all the time.
What I get from this is that I'm going to have to go take out a policy on my co-host for about $1.5 million or $2
million. He's going to return a favor and take out a $3 million policy.
There you go.
on your ass. I mean, your butt. On you.
She would have been successful 3 years ago. I was almost at the door there. So
he got COVID. He got COVID a couple of years. During the pandemic.
Welcome back, Connor.
You missed your opportunity, co-host.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But it is interesting. People don't like to think about this part of their lives. It just overwhelms them. But you're right. If you lose your spouse and they're the predominant, they're driving most of the revenue that's coming in your home.
Well, it's even true for someone who's a caretaker, right?
Oh, yes, for sure.
It doesn't matter. But this person is taking care of the kids and the house and all this stuff. And if they're not there, how much is it going to cost you to have somebody else do what that person used to do? Is it $40,000 a year? Well, guess what? Even for a non-working spouse, using the same formula, 4% static withdrawal, that's $1 million. $1 million on the breadwinner who's not making any money. So that if that breadwinner, I'm sorry, not a breadwinner, a provider, right, a homemaker, taking care of the house and everything.
It's costly because you got to bring somebody in. And the other part of that as well, John, is as baby boomers, our parents, some of us, our parents are here, my parents gone, but there's a major increase of costs when you have to take care of your parent, right? And you're trying to take care of your household, and all of a sudden, and they their planning for retirement was completely different. And so generally it's not enough money to carry and cover them having cancer or dementia or any of that sort of stuff. I know my girlfriend was spending, she said, I think she spent about 80 grand for taking care of her mom every year. And so pretty much she was working to take care of her mother. So, and those things happen. And then I have friends, I think somebody I know that's he was paying $8,000 a month to take care of his mother.
Wow.
Yeah, to keep her in a facility. She passed away this year, but it was $8,000 a month to keep her in a really high, nice place. And even if you get the long-term health care, that's not cheap if you didn't get it in your 20s.
Yes. Well, the good news is there are newer policies that allow for folks to either use the money or pass it on, or it could be a death benefit. So it's one form of insurance that can serve multiple purposes as the purpose is needed. So it's not like you're dropping money in a rabbit hole and you don't get anything back because you didn't file a claim. but it allows for the money to be used for long-term care or to pass on to heirs or to live on. So there have been some improvements in how some of these policies are designed. And yes, it is a daunting task, but the good news is that some of the technology and some of the newer ways of thinking allows people to keep their options open as opposed to, it's like I was looking at a friend and I said, "What's this? You're paying $20 a month for cancer insurance? Huh? Do you realize you have to die from cancer for that policy to pay off? Oh, and you're paying another $20 a month from accidental death? Same thing. Your body has to be 20 feet away from your head on impact for that policy to pay off. So let's have policies that serve multiple purposes as opposed to one that you thought you were being smart. Well, my mother had cancer, so I want to have cancer insurance. Well, suppose you have a heart attack. Yeah. What's your cancer insurance do for you? Nothing.
There, you got a point there. You definitely got a point there. But again,
money.
a lot of times they're not getting advice from experts like yourself. They're getting, they might get something in the mail, or as Gilbert and I call them, the street consultants kind of give them some information, and they run with that information.
Yes. We don't have access to really high quality people. And that means that we're often taken advantage of by slicksters. And many of them provide insurance that's very lucrative for the agent, but not in the best design for the client. So yeah, we have to be careful of who shows up and wants to do business with us, because it's often the case we find that they're taking care of their own pocket as opposed to being a good, adequate service to the client.
Right, and you don't find that out until all of a sudden you're ill or you need it, and you call them and they're like, "Oh, well, that it would, at the time that was appropriate insurance for you."
Well, yeah, assuming you can find them and assuming they're doing the same job that they said they were doing before, because a lot of times they're in and they're out. Okay.
Right. Exactly. So I guess the moral to that story is they need to be having a review on a periodic frequency.
To your point, we were just working with a gentleman this morning. But he just has some annuities that we said it's time to look at these. He said, "Well, he's got like 5 of them. I just got these 2 years ago. I don't care. You should look at them." And it turns out that 4 of the 5, the yield is like 3.35. A couple of months ago, he could have locked in 5.7. He can get 5.5 today. But my point is exactly underscoring what you're saying. And that is, you got to look back. How did your account treat you in 08? How did your account treat you in 2022?
Right.
Interest rates have gone up. Have you moved your money to places where you can go from a 3% yield to almost a 6% yield? That's a significant increase to your bottom line. But in this case, we talked to him earlier this year and we said, "Hey, we think interest rates are coming down." That was at 5.7.
Right.
we talked to him last week. We thought we could get 5.5. We checked today. The rates have come down to 5.4. It's still markedly better than 3.3. But, it's kind of like, did you get the best interest rate on the house? Was that 3%? You're at 4%. That's better than 16. But we have to be adept and agile and keep paying attention because things change so fast.
And so would you say that would be every 2 years, 5 years, they need to come back and or every year sit down with their advisors and just
some people want quarterly, some people want semi-annually, some people it's annual. We work with the folks. You tell us how often you want to see us, and we'll show up. But we also are working behind the scenes. In other words, it's funny because this gentleman pointed out that the financial service professionals are really good at putting you in something and then forgetting about you. Because,
right, exactly.
I made all the money I could make. You haven't got any new money. I'm off trying to go find somebody else to make some more money. And I said, "Listen, this is, when you're working with us, this will not happen again. You may not know we're looking at your policy or your annuity, but we will be looking because we're always curious if there's something better. And the only way you do is line up the annuities to see what do you have, what's available now, and then you decide not to do anything. Maybe you do something, or, you're like, hey, if interest rates keep going up, I need to be poised to take advantage of that opportunity. So with some regularity, somebody should be looking at what are we doing here and how does it compare to what else is available today?
Oh yeah, I think that's a great idea. So we're gonna come to the end of the show, and I think that's what we're gonna end it. We just can't assume our lives are fluid, so therefore our money also has fluidity, and so we need to sit down with someone that can help make sure that you're in line for whatever's about to happen in your world. Right, your kid's about to go to college, your wife is about to have a baby. Your parents are getting ready to move in with you. And you're getting older, and so therefore you're getting all kinds of aches and pains and chronic illnesses that could have some major impact on the whole entire family.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, John, it's been awesome. You gave us some hope for the young people of our world that they too will be able to have their first home purchase. Won't be at 31 though.
Well, for millennials, it slipped back to 37. Interestingly enough, for their parents,
really,
yeah. So if they're going to buy, it seems like they've been slower on the uptake, if you will.
Yeah, because they've been concerned about that.
Yeah. But they're not as anxious to have a McMansion like their parents couldn't live without it.
No, they're not anxious to be in debt like their parents. Most of the millennials and Gen Zs came up with during the 2000 during our crash, the 2008 through 12.
Well, let me give you an update. The total debt for the American population is $1.14 trillion, up 27 billion just from the end of 2023. So what I'm saying to you is, and the government debt is $32 trillion. What I'm saying is, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of race, right, creed, whatever you want to think, we're all living on debt. That's what we're living on. And I think millennials are very much part of that same putting things on the credit card. Okay.
Well, and then because school and their college education is so much more expensive than it used to be, and they're carrying a lot of that debt. John, It's been awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
My pleasure. I hope that maybe we can make Americans hopeful again with what you guys are doing. So
we need some hope. We need some hope.
You never know, John. You never know.
That's right. Stay tuned, stay agile, pay attention, and our trademark is the proof is in the planning. So do what you can to plan your financial success while you can.
Awesome. Great. I think that's a great way to end the show. Do whatever you can. How do they
get a hold of you, John?
Oh, Why Be Poor is one of our sites. Investors Advantage, you can find us. 800-266-2077 is a phone number. 805-495-2077.
Can you right there in the chat? There's a chat there, right? Okay. If you put it there, and then we'll move it over to the general chat.
I don't see the chat.
You don't see the chat? Who knows? It's usually at the very bottom. It says private chat. At least on my side, it says.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can do that, and then I'll move it over.
Okay.
You have a podcast as well, don't you?
I do not. I appear various places at various times.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And I will move that over. So if any of you want to start your planning process before you need to plan, which is the best time to plan, before you need it.
Yes, 100%.
John, this has been great. Really appreciate the information. I'm sure.
And this is important because we're getting ready because of it's an election year, and we never know how it's going to turn out. But we do need to be make sure our home base is protected, and so this is probably a great time for those of you that do have some concerns to reach out to John or someone in his capacity that can help you. Sit down and review. Don't wait till it's too late.
No. This is a good time to plan, folks, because I think things are going to be vastly different. And it would not surprise me if we actually enter, and I think the Fed's going to do everything they can to avoid it, but it would not surprise me that we have a serious recession, if not a depression. And again, it's not about the prediction, it's about the preparation. So if there's never an earthquake in California, you don't give a damn, right? But if there is and you're prepared for it, you want to be able to tell the story. And that's what we're saying. This is a time to get ready for things to change dramatically, but that doesn't mean that you have to leave your assets on the Titanic.
Exactly. Yeah. It is going to be some changing because, and it's cyclical anyway. So we do know, and they've been threatening for a minute of a recession. So we just know that it possibly is right around the corner.
Yeah. Or even more dramatic than that. And by the way, just say this real quick. Depressions aren't bad things. The prices come down. And one of my contacts suggests that they just happen for civilizations every 80 years. So we were on track for number 2 in 2008. We put paint on the pig. We put duct tape all over the lips of the pig, right? Kicked it down the road. We're not going to miss this.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much, John. We appreciate having you on the show, and we will come back to again with some more information for us and anything that you think that our public needs to have, especially our entrepreneurs, because they tend to. This information right here is so different for them than it is for someone in working America, in corporate America. Because they're deep into their business trying to make it survive. And so, yeah, like all of us as entrepreneurs. Huh?
Yes.
But thank you so much. So you have a fantastic weekend. And until we see you again, my friend, enjoy life.
Thank you. Every Friday's a Good Friday. Happy Good Friday to you and your audience. And I'll look to see you again.
Take care, John. Take care. Right. Have a good one.
All right, Gilbert, we want to close on out.
Yeah, let's see here.
Yeah, Gilbert had too much of a day today, huh?
You notice I start out energetic and then all of a sudden I poofed.
As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program, and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement.